Hello everybody, Ben Rogers here, the Raptors Digest, reacting to some Toronto Raptors news. Now Ryker, the trade discussion, especially last week. The Raptors are on a 2-game win streak as of recording, so we have some things to be excited about, right? I brought out the balloons in the last post-game podcast, Ryker, bringing in some celebrations. But, you know, a lot of people were calling for some trades, and now we're seeing that the Toronto Raptors are involved in some rumors, into some discussions, and we'll dive into this report that's here. We have two we're breaking down in the next couple days, but this is the first one. This is coming from Darren Wolfson of The Scoop, right? Minnesota Timberwolves podcast, and he's saying that he continues to hear from non-Wolves league executives the Toronto Raptors are a team to keep an eye on. I'm gonna get this graphic up again so you guys can finish the read, and they're looking to do some things come December 15th, the time when all the players that are under contract become available for trade. And he also mentioned that Chris Boucher could be on the table and a potential target for the Minnesota Timberwolves. Ryker, it's a lot to digest, a lot to break down. What are your thoughts on this quote from a league insider from the Minnesota Timberwolves?
What is even his contract? $7 million, 1 year, 29 years old. Minnesota Timberwolves. Anthony Edwards, $10 million. Could we make it work, Ben?
Yes.
I'm looking through the team roster. I'm looking, what kind of player would you want to get in return for a Chris Boucher-esque guy, and maybe like a Naz Reid type. I know we've been begging for a true backup center closer to that 7-foot range that can defend the paint. That's what people have been itching for in Raptors land. And certainly it makes more sense to find that filler piece now that the Raptors are stringing together a couple of wins. We're being a little bit more competitive. So you can see how like a minor tweak like this might actually improve the composition of the roster, Ben. I don't see any real good trades as I'm eyeballing the Timberwolves roster. Most of their guys are on pretty big contracts. Do you have somebody on top of your head you think makes sense?
You brought him up, Ryker. Naz Reid is a guy that is nasty. He is a nasty player. He's quietly become one of the best backup bigs in the league. Now, Khem Birch I also regard as one of the best sort of backup centers in the NBA, so to speak, even though Khem will probably he's itching his way. As much as I spew the precious propaganda on this podcast, Ryker, it's really looking like Khem Birch, who's the guy that's going to be our starting center going forward once he comes back healthy. But having a true 7-footer in a Naz Reid that, you know, can not only finish around the rim, not only be a big body, he's certainly a big man, a true 7-footer, but splash a few threes. He's a guy that 37% from the 3-point line. He's a guy that can get inside the lane. He has a quick handle. He's nimble for a big man. Right? Offensively, he does a lot of creative things out there. He's a comfortable basketball player, and he is that true 7-foot size player.
Nope. I am searching it up. We probably should have fact-checked ourselves. In fact, he is listed at 2.06 meters, the same as Chris Boucher. So you'd be swapping identical heights. However, he's a bigger body. Earlier.
I'm tripping.
I'm searching on Google.
I'm tripping.
You can never trust Wikipedia. However, I know people are going to jump to commenting as soon as they heard us say the first time the 7-footer comment. So hopefully they listen far enough for us to correct ourselves that he is listed on Wikipedia at the same height as Boucher. Now, he's got a little bit longer hair, hangs down. Maybe he's getting an extra inch there too. He probably weighs double the weight of Chris Boucher. Not actually, but eye test. This is a man that is much more physically intimidating than Boucher, shooting more efficiently. He's averaging a block per game. He's averaging less than a turnover per game. So there's a lot of good pieces about Naz Reid, and I think he would undoubtedly be a step up from Boucher. Would the Timberwolves be interested in this? I mean, the report is coming from Timberwolves camp, is it? Or somebody saying that the Timberwolves are maybe a team that's interested in Boucher talks?
Well, Boucher is a guy that the Timberwolves have interest in, not specifically for Naz Reid, because they're looking for a mobile big man. They're looking for a guy that can sort of be out there, fix, they have Towns, they have Reed in there right now. They want another guy that can sort of fit, right? Whether they have to give up Reed, but that can shoot the three as well, do some floor spacing, be a bit more of a mobile guy around Towns, because Towns and Reed are very similar. Now, that's not to say they're trying to give up Reed, because he's been one of the top backups, but the tough thing with Chris Boucher is that statistically hasn't been having the greatest year. And just overall, not just statistically. 6 points per game, 4 rebounds, 0.3 assists. Not even a block for our Rudy Gobert mixed with Steph Curry that we were calling him last season. And the tough stat that's in there, you called him the third best player on the Toronto Raptors, is 18% from the three-point line. A three-point shooter that's supposed to be knocking those down. Naz Reid, who's having a pretty solid year, probably that doesn't get done. That deal we'd have to add something potentially. And, specifically with the Timberwolves, because this report did say that the Raptors are just trying to be active. So we'll speculate on some other trade topics as we go before we move on from the Timberwolves, Riker. But they are looking for a guy as well that can sort of be a floor general. D'Angelo Russell is showing that he's more of a two guard in a point guard's body, or in a point guard position, right? He loves to huck up those shots. He doesn't pass it to Karl Anthony Towns down the stretch of games. And, I've heard, I think it was Jay Skeets, who was on our podcast at one moment, saying that maybe a Goran Dragic could fit there for the Timberwolves on their playoff push. Maybe a Malachi Flynn. Do you think that we could add one of those guys to the Timberwolves to sweeten the pot, or should we just get rid of thinking of making a deal with the Timberwolves?
I'm terribly uninterested in making a trade with the Timberwolves. I wouldn't mind Naz Reid, but... Yep. There's more interesting teams out there if we're trying to be active in the trade talks.
I can't believe he's not a 7-footer. I swear he was when I looked, but I could be.
Well, I test, and it's also deceiving when we're getting dominated by any old player and their mother. When we're trying to make serious claims that the Raptors are one of the best defensive teams in the league, we sometimes choke on our words because we get decimated in the paint. But I can see where we were both coming from, but he is listed as 6'9", same as Chris Boucher, so that's pretty interesting. Ben, I don't know about you, any other players you'd be interested in from the Timberwolves, or are we saying we give them multiple assets in exchange for 22-year-old Naz Reid on a $1.7 million deal?
That could be cool. Maybe you bring back a Malik Beasley who just hasn't been good this season. He's on a big contract, 2 years left, so that's an asset taken away from the Timberwolves. You make things work out there.
3 years, team option in the third.
Okay, so yeah, 2 years guaranteed onto it. So it's he's not living up to that contract currently. It's looking like a negative asset. So maybe you work something.
He needs
out
more
like
Larissa.
Larissa? What? Oh, Larissa Pippen.
Yeah.
Was he the one dating her?
Yeah.
Jeez. That's tough. Old Scotty. Maybe bring Scotty Pippen back to mentor Barnes.
Pippen and Scotty Burns stand up. But Ben, the more exciting one, now that I don't know if we're going to have a full video breaking this down, but we will.
Yeah.
We might as well touch on it briefly into this. Is Boucher the guy on the block? And if so, could we land a bigger fish? We don't need to say Indiana Pacers specifically. We'll break down a full video. But is there other teams that you'd prefer to position Chris Boucher to on the trading block than the Timberwolves? Go.
Well, we talked about Christian Wood in the previous video. They're on a little bit of a hot streak. Maybe if they're trying to tank Boucher a couple first, get that done, right? That can happen. And Chris Boucher has started to play well in the past couple of games, or at least the most recent one against the Washington Wizards. So maybe you let it ride out before you try to give him up for peanuts. But if he gets his value back, I know some people on Raptors Reddit have brought up Lou Dort. I don't think the Oklahoma City Thunder would ever do that in their wildest dreams. They're getting older, and they getting older and getting worse in that deal for sure. Unless we add a first-round pick or something like that, because we know the Oklahoma City Thunder love those first-round picks. The Brooklyn Nets, they were interested in Boucher in the offseason, right? Maybe you can get a guy, pull out one of their younger players, a Cam Thomas, who we know can really light up the scoreboard. Nick Claxton, I know a few people were interested in from the Brooklyn Nets. Any of those teams really catch your eye, Riker, specifically?
Yeah, I like those ideas from Brooklyn's side. I know there's lots of G League players this year that are lighting it up, that maybe we even go down and really stretch our hands
Trade
down
Chris
further.
Boucher
I know people
to the G League.
Well, listen, we flipped Matt Thomas into a second rounder. We flipped Terrence Davis into a second rounder, and one of those turned out to be Banton, who's now a rotation piece for us. So it's not out of the imagination to say that Chris Boucher could be flipped into a G League or a future pick that could yield better results for the Raptors than what they're having now. Because I think on this team or not, the Raptors don't really change. If we were to just lose him tomorrow, right? If we benched him the same way that the Knicks benched the Knicks bench Kemba Walker, I think that there would have zero impact to the Raptors. That's a harsh criticism for Chris Boucher, but
You
he's been
went
so
from
bad.
third best player to
Well, that's what I'm saying. So I don't have a particular priority if we're putting him on the block, but any exchange for value would be nice.
Yeah, that's fair. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. And the Raptors looking to make moves. We know Dragic. We just made a video on that a few days ago, so appreciate that. Hit about 20k views. So shout out to that during the dark days of Toronto Raptors. But they're going to go on a little win streak, trade or not, going forward. So you guys should subscribe to Raptors Digest, because once we do hit 22k, we're giving away this hoodie to a lucky subscriber, whether you subscribe back in the day or currently. But so definitely check that out if you guys are interested. Or subscribe. Check out the Instagram, the TikTok, the Twitter, all that cool stuff. Join the channel membership. Check out the merch. Riker, do you have any last words on a potential Toronto Raptors trade?
No extra comments, Ben. Cheers.